Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's TechCast. My name is Charlie Berger. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management for Machine Learning at Oracle. And we've got a good one for you today. We've got Jeff Smith, Master Product Manager at Oracle. He's been around for quite a while, knows a lot of stuff. So we're delighted to have him on stage. I'll be your host today. So just a little bit of my background. I do the machine learning. I've been with this analytics and data community for a while. Actually, the co-founder, along with Sham Nath from some many years back, and with a bunch of great people. We pull off a number of different events and TechCasts. And by the way, if anyone wants to sort of join into that, it's an army of volunteers. Just raise your hand and send us an email. We'll love to get additional help. So in today's TechCast, we're going to record this. So afterwards, we'll post this out on the same website that you came to when you registered, the main Oracle, the Analytics and Data Oracle User Community page on the TechCast page. And we'll also post it out on YouTube. So if you go to the main page of Analytics and Data User Community, which is actually going to get a refresh, and we're going to change that around a little bit. You can also click on the link that says "See us on YouTube" or "See us on Twitter" or whatever, so you can see it out there. So check that out. But that'll take us, probably a few hours to 24 hours or so to get that out there. So it will be out there for you, along with a copy of Jeff's slides. So we're going to have Jeff do his talk. Afterwards, we're going to have a brief Q&A. Jeff has said he can stay for a little while, maybe a little bit longer than we usually do. So we'll see how that goes. And I also want to alert you that the upcoming TechCast are going to be, we're with the TBD, a little bit of a TB on May 21st. We're kind of working that out. Then on June 4th, so we will have one. We're just deciding which one. June 4th, we'll have move from data analyst to analytics superhero, presented by Brendan Doyle. Good one coming up. June 18th, building predictive analytics solutions, presented by Sai Kiran from InfoLab. And if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we had the Women in Technologies panel, which was a popular one. So Jeff, the speaker's contact information is on the presentation. You can reach him through all that. And the last thing I'm supposed to say is that everyone has a lot of knowledge, and the idea of these TechCasts is to share knowledge. So if you know something on how to use the Oracle technology and you think it's kind of clever and cool and you want to and are willing to share it with others, please submit an abstract on the TechCast website. We'll review those. We have a subcommittee that pulls off the best to put them on stage. And today we're delighted to have Jeff. So Jeff is the Master Product Manager for Oracle SQL Developer, SQL Data Modeler, the REST services. He's been with Oracle for 20 years, and he can take it away now. Jeff, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. I've been working with Oracle for about 20 years. I've been at Oracle Core since 2011. I am the product manager for SQL Developer, which is what we're going to cover today. And if you want more information, if you want to download it, if you want links to our videos, it's a very easy URL, oracle.com/SQL Developer. I also like to blog. I like to write. It helps me get the thoughts out of my head in a safe place. And you can go to my website, thatjeffsmith.com, and I've put together a resource page to help you find specific posts on things like SQL Developer and REST data services. But really, the number one link for finding anything on our stuff is Google. We spend a lot of time putting content out on YouTube, on Twitter, on blogs, in the docs, hands-on labs, VirtualBox, VMware images. And if you can never find any of that stuff, then hit me, send me an email. So many people do not send me email. I'm either going to reply immediately or never. So hopefully I'll reply right away. And if you don't hear back from me within an hour, you need to email me again the next day, because my inbox is just a nightmare sometimes. Oh, and these are being recorded, and the slides are going to be made available. I'm going to send my slides up as soon as this is over, and the video should be up in a week or so. And it looks like there's some really cool previous episodes here as well. I know Wayne and Deborah both, so you apart from me, I can see some really excellent speakers here. SQL Developer tips and tricks, and I call this the data edition. So instead of talking about debugging and database administration and some of the other esoteric things, I wanted to do a presentation that was all about the data, whether that's in a spreadsheet or in your SQL statement. How can this tool help you be better at your job, and then maybe have some fun while you're at it? And my number one tip for attending this talk is don't try to ingest all of this all at once. Be on the lookout for 2 to 3 things that really grab your attention and go, oh, that might really help me. Maybe write those down and then dig into that later, because I'm going to do a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. And I'm going to try to live demo some of it, and some of it is just going to be screenshots in the product. I do have the chat open on Zoom, so if you want to send a note in the Zoom chat, I'll try to catch those as they come in. Otherwise, we'll catch them at the end.
Hey, Jeff, one clarification,
Yes.
or I guess I'd say a correction. We're trying not to use the chat so much as we're trying to use the Q&A feature. So I don't know why we have to have both, but the Q&A feature, it works just a little bit better than the chat.
Do not listen to me, listen to Charlie. So let me, there is a Q&A. Thank you,
You
Charlie.
already have one question there. I don't know if you want to take it right away. When's 20?
All right, so because of this whole COVID worldwide pandemic, we decided not to release version 20.1 of SQL Developer. It was originally scheduled to go out in March. We just decided a lot of people probably wouldn't have the bandwidth to go worry about upgrading stuff like SQL Developer, so there will not be a 20.1. There will be a 20.2, and that's scheduled for the end of this calendar quarter. So about the time our kids would normally be getting out of school is when 20.2 should hit the shelves. So sometime in June. And that's true for our other products as well. So SQL CL, REST Data Services, SQL Developer Data Modeler, SQL Developer Web, 20.2s for all of those should be available in the June timeframe. And what I'm demonstrating today is version 19.4. So this is the version that you can go download from oracle.com. So the nice thing is I'm not going to be showing you any super duper secret stuff you can't already immediately use. So you might not know that Oracle actually has a motto or a mantra. This is Larry's words, every single letter Larry Ellison came up with. Our mission is to help people see data in new ways, discover insights, unlock endless possibilities. So that really inspired me to look at presenting this material in a different way. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be all about the data. I've done this session before. It's been recorded in other places. It's a little bit different also every time I do it. And that's what I love about this talk. It's my favorite talk. It's very much based on the feedback I get and like I said, the crazy thoughts that go through my head that pop out onto the screen as we go. And I am serious about making it fun. If we're not having a little bit of fun at work, that's a danger sign that maybe we're not doing things as well as we could be. And for me, the Oracle database has always been fun. So it's kind of a dream opportunity for me to come to Oracle and be a product manager on SQL Developer. If you like learning by watching, I do have a lot of videos on YouTube. I know YouTube is banned at a lot of corporate environments. Of course, now that we're all working from home, haha, we get to watch whatever we want. I will say all the tips and tricks are also in blog format. So if you go to my website, thatjeffsmith.com, I have blog posts that go into detail for all of these as well. So a little bit about SQL Developer. It's been around almost 15 years, I guess. We do quarterly releases now. So we're going from an annual release to now we try for 4 a year. This year it's going to be 3 because of COVID. Thank you, COVID. And our users worldwide, we know of at least 5. I'm guessing there's closer to 7 or 8 million people using SQL Developer on a regular basis, and they're not all SQL developers. It's really just anyone that needs to interact with the Oracle database. And oftentimes they're going to be writing SQL statements or simply clicking into tables and trying to answer business questions. And of course, we have a large amount of application developers that are writing PL SQL. And then, of course, we have the people that keep our databases safe and performant and available, and those are PAs. But today I'm going to talk about just the data stuff. We do track usage data. I can't see your SQL, don't freak out, but if you volunteer to share what you're doing in the tool, we can see like what features are active and which ones aren't. That kind of helps us decide where we want to spend time in making the product better. And I think these are 2018 numbers. Over 1 billion SQL worksheets were opened that we could tell just from the amount of people willing to share their data with us. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's a lot of select star froms. This is a little bit of our release history. Again, I'm showing 19.4. If you're using anything that starts with an 18 or a 19, you're probably okay. If you're using a version 1, 2, 3, or 4, I really suggest you upgrade. All of our stuff is free. There's no installer. You just unzip it. I don't want you to break your corporate desktop IT folks' rules by installing something you're not supposed to, but I do heavily recommend you try to get on at least 19.2 or 19.4. First question, someone's asking, can I use SQL Developer to reverse engineer all the tables and generate table SQL so that I can execute them in another database, instance, different versions, etc.? And yes, the answer to that is yes. I can think of 3 different ways that you can do that. And at the end of the session, I'll try to remember to show you that. Not to belabor this too much, but we're a Java application, which means we'll run on Windows, Macs, Linux, and you can use the Oracle JDK for free to run SQL Developer. So again, we're a completely free stack. The only time licensing comes into play for SQL Developer is if you need to open a service request with My Oracle support. So if you want to log a bug or enhancement request, we just check to see that you have a database licensed and under support. All right, so that was all my boring stuff. Let's jump into the tips and tricks. Okay, so maybe the thing that folks do the most is getting data in and out of Excel. And Excel's got to be what, the #1 data application in the world. Hate it, love it. I mean, it's just there. So a lot of times you've got data in Excel and you want to get it into the database, and other times you've got data in your database that you need to put in Excel because someone wants to do a pivot. So a very frequent operation, SQL developers will run a query, they'll get data in a grid, and they'll go to right-click in the grid, and then they'll start getting data out to paste somewhere else. So, I mean, you could put your mouse in here and select all and copy and paste somewhere else. What I suggest is figure out what format you want the data to come out in to begin with, and then it should be ready to immediately go with. So it might not be going to Excel, it might be going somewhere else. So someone just asked about getting objects out of the database and into a different one. When you're querying data, you can say, hey, I want the rows to come back as insert statements. And the output will be the data in the format of an insert statement. So you could immediately run it somewhere else. So I can say select star from all objects. And I could come down here and say export and pick my format. But all of these formats I can build into the query itself. So for example, I want to see all of this, but I'm going to say just get the first 5 rows only. So here is a JSON document with some arrays for the rows. Instead of JSON, maybe I want the ubiquitous CSV. Maybe you want to go a little fatter and get XML. So if you're just quick and dirty stuff, this is going to be faster than the run query, right click, copy to clipboard, and go. And we have a full SQL Plus style engine built into the tool. So you can do things like spool file.csv and say select and then say spool off, and then at the end of this running, I'm going to have a file called file.csv with whatever data in here I've told it to go in. So let me show you kind of the trick part of this. If we look at the format, these titles here are what have to go into this sort of hint. It's not technically a hint, it's actually a comment. But one of them is called JSON formatted, which is the newest one. I'm also running these as a script, which means don't go to the grid, go through our script engine. And so here's a nice, easy to read JSON document showing my objects, or at least the first 5 rows of them. Oh, and I had a slide for that, because I don't trust myself for live demos to always work, but there you go. So this is an alternative method to that. Instead of using the comment in the query itself. So if you put the comment in the query itself, when you run that, just that statement will have the output formatted. If you set a session level SQL format, then everything after this running in a worksheet will automatically come back in the format that you ask for. So I could say set SQL format CSV, and then until I change it. Otherwise, anytime I run a query to the script engine, it's going to come back immediately to CSV. Yes, spool and DDL. So again, back to, can you reverse engineer a database into something that you could run? This isn't necessarily reverse engineering the database or a schema, but let's say I want to get the DDL for a table, and then I want to get the data for it. And I can also say clear screen. Did I misspell regions? G-I-N-S, okay. So the DDL is a SQL Developer specific command that does exactly what it sounds like. It invokes the database API for generating the DDL for objects, including tables. The first time you run this, you have to warm up the API a little bit, and then subsequent DDL commands should go fairly fast. So if I'd put a spool around this, I could have one file that would have everything I need for this table, the DDL for it, and the 4 inserts. And if you know how to run loops with anonymous blocks, then you could theoretically code this yourself for the entire schema or for a group of objects that you want. HTML is one of the spool formats that we support, and we even throw in a little bit of JavaScript for you. So if you want to give someone a web page that they can use to search the data and highlight entries in, we can do that for you as well. Now, our HTML is not going to be beautiful, but you can take our HTML and fix it up on your own if you'd like. Now, there's nothing wrong with the mouse. It's what makes Windows Windows, really, in terms of user interfaces. What would a GUI be without the mouse? But if you're going to be doing mouse operations a lot, it takes only a moment to set up your defaults, and then you're going to have a lot more fun using things like the export dialog. So let's say I'm always doing JSON formatted to clipboard, and I never want to have to go through this process again of going click, click, click. Come into Preferences. On the database page, Utilities, Export. I can make the default format JSON formatted to clipboard. And now it's right where I want it to be every single time. So 3 clicks in the preferences to save yourself an unlimited number of clicks going forward. I call that a win. Okay, so some tricks in the data grids. Browsing tables. Let's go do that. So let me show you another trick. There's a couple different ways to go to a table. So I could come over here and navigate this behemoth, but that's not fun. Or I can control click into objects. And I'm gonna show you how I did that more than once because it can be tricky. So I have my control key pressed on my keyboard and I'm mousing over this word. We recognize that as an identifier, as an object in the database. Now if I mouse click right now, it will go and try to open that object. And here it did that. So this could be anything. So this could be our most favoritist table of all time, right? And the desktop itself has a lot of things you can do here to increase your productivity. So I could have full screen SQL Developer, I can have my code here, and then I can have database objects open all at once on the same screen. So I can browse my data, and maybe I don't want to see all employees. Maybe I only want to see employees that make a certain amount of money. And I forget what the column name is, so if I press Control Spacebar, I'll get a list of the columns here, and I can just kind of come down and say, let's just see the employees that make more than 2,500 bucks. By the way, I don't think it ever says in the docs if this is 2,500 a month, a day, a paycheck, or a year. Let's hope it's not the year. So what does this mean? These are just the employees that fit these attributes or these parameters. Now, if I do a record count, we're nice. Apparently, everyone makes more than $2,500. I didn't actually do any filtering here. So if I add a 0, yep, and I do this again. So of the 107 rows, 6 of them make more than 25 grand a something. Split editors and grids. So I won't make you watch my GIF because I already kind of started to do that. So these aren't split editors. What I've got here are document tab groups. So I have this group of tabs, this group of tabs, and this group of tabs. And that's what allows me to have multiple things going on at once. And let me show you how we got there again. So if we come back to the default view where everything's like this and you get to see one thing at a time, one thing you can do is you can grab this with your mouse and then drag it over and drop. Come on. At some point, it's going to recognize it. There we go. There we go. Boop. So that was kind of the hard way. What I'll generally do instead is I'll right-click and say New Document Tab Group, and it'll automatically throw it up in here. Now you can always drag stuff around, so I can say, hey, I wanted the worksheet here. And when my employees table over here. Again, it can be a little tricky. There we go. This will work on a Mac as well. So this is desktop tabs, and if you ever screw it up beyond recognition, you can always come in here to Window and say reset Windows to factory settings. And that's a horrible choice of words. I really should take the time to get that changed. This does not do anything to Windows itself. This is saying for the window wing in SQL Developer, reset it to the default desktop view. It won't format your hard drive, I promise. For splitting these things, I might want to see multiple things at once. Like, so for example, what is this employees table related to? So in this little corner of the window, there's this little 3 or 4 pixel wide object here that if I grab with my mouse and pull down, it splits this editor. Now, I could do something like 2 different views of the same data. So I could say salary greater than 20,000. But what I want to do instead is I want to switch to the data model. Let's see if this works this time. So what this is going to do is going to interrogate the data dictionary, and it's going to look at the foreign key constraints defined on the table in both directions, one level. So it's going to look for tables that have foreign key dependencies on this table and the other way around, and then it's going to draw that for me in a diagram. So you probably have bigger monitors than me, but I can get quite a bit of info on the screen, and I can split these windows as many times as I want. So if we look here, there's that little 3-pixel wide splitter there as well. I can grab him and pull this way. I have a mini view of my data, a big view of my diagram, and then I could also say, hey, let's look at the statistics. And at any point, I can come in here and right-click and say unsplit, and it just brings it back to normal. So I see people opening multiple copies of SQL Developer just so they can see 2 tables at once. Don't do that. Learn how to use the desktop tab groups. Now, if you're going to open 2 tables at once, no matter what, once the table's open, you need to use this little push pin, which says when I go to open table 2, leave this one alone. Just make sure you close these when you're done. As you're querying objects on the database, that can tie up server resources. And if you open up big tables and you never close them, that could get your DBA mad at you. And I do not want the DBA mad at you. I want the DBA happy with you. Someone's asking, why can't they do a table describe of another schema's table? Select star from HR, copy departments. So let's see if describe works. We do have bugs from time to time. So you should be able to describe tables in other schemas. If that's not working for you, feel free to contact me offline. I'll help you get it going in your environment. And thanks for the question. These questions really help, I think, this become a more natural presentation than me just talking to myself. Although, as Charlie can attest, if you're a product manager long enough at Oracle, you just naturally start talking to yourself.
That's true.
It's so true.
Jeff, was that last one a new feature or anything, the one you just showed?
No, it's been in the tool since at least 2012, maybe longer than that. I don't have the bandwidth to go visit every single customer and show them everything this tool can do. That's one of the reasons I like YouTube and blogs.
Are you going to show us the coolest feature that we never knew about?
You know what? I put the 2 coolest ones up top.
All right.
So I hope it's not downhill from now.
No, I'm already learning stuff myself here, so I'm trying them out on SQL Developer on the side.
So my favorite tip and trick is this, the document tab groups and the splitting of things. And what customers tell me their favorite thing was the thing I led with, which was the getting the data out in the format that you want. But, you know, everyone's favorite tip and trick is dependent on what they're doing. I'm going to skip this one. So maybe some visualization stuff. Sometimes numbers fail to convey the meaning they should. Like maybe seeing Mr. King's salary there in the number format doesn't tell the story as well as that bar chart does. So if you want to Google SQL Developer tips and tricks bar chart, I'll show you the syntax required to build these little visualizations directly into your reports and queries. I get asked this question a billion times. Most people know how to copy and paste. What they can't seem to figure out is how to copy and paste rows with column headers. So actually what I'm showing here is a little bit different. This is what happens when I don't rehearse my own slides. So I'm going to select 9 rows here, and then I'm going to hit the new record button 9 times. You can do this from Excel too. And then select those cells and paste, and you can dirty copy and paste rows between tables this way. Here's what I thought I was getting ready to talk about. In a grid, when you go to use Command-C or Control-C, that gets just the data. And if you throw in a shift, so Control-Shift or Command-Shift-C, will grab the column headers too. I can also take data in a grid and drag and drop or copy and paste over to get something like this. So let me show that in real world. So let's do select star from, I hate using employees, but I'm just going to do it. Where I thought I had a job in here.
Hey, Jeff, there's 2 or 3 comments in here if you want to break it up a little bit.
I will. So job ID is in. And then let's just run this real quick and grab some job IDs. So we automatically put that into we recognized it as text and put it in comma separated text, so I can just run this and get just those employees. So I think that's nice. Someone's asking, is there a shortcut for describe object? Yes, if you right click and see describe, buried here is the keyboard shortcut for that. That's programmable. You can change that to anything you want. Someone's asking, why is my CPU high for SQL Dev even when I'm not actively using it? It depends. So SQL Developer is not just Notepad. It's not just a text editor. It's a lot more. You've got Oracle connections. You've got a parser running at all times, checking on things. There are features you can disable that can decrease the workload. The other thing I would suggest is try to run the most recent copy of Java that you can. We support Java 11, which I've seen have a huge performance improvement over Java 8. Close files when you're done working with them. Close database connections when you're done work with them. If you have a worksheet with 10,000 lines of SQL in it, the parser is going to scrape that looking for stuff, and that takes horsepower. So even though you're not actively typing and doing stuff, we're doing stuff for you. So it's not always fair to say you're not using it. Insights. If you've seen me do this a little bit already, I think, where I'm typing and then I get the little helpers. So this isn't very useful at all. This will bring up a list of everything I could query from. And I say it's not useful because there's just too many things to scroll from. Where it becomes more useful is when I give it a little something to go with. So we pull out of the current schema first, and then we'll go look into other schemas. And I can multi-select here if I want, or I can just select a single object if I want. And then where. So there's 2 operations, or 2 modes for this feature. For noobs, I think, and I hate to call you noobs, for people brand new to the tool, I think it's totally okay to use this auto pop-up feature. And all that means is as you're typing, stop typing for at least 0.4 seconds, we're going to try to give you advice on something. Now, I'm a control freak. I hate automatic helpers. I only want the help when I ask for it. So I can wait here all day long and I'm never going to get the help. That doesn't mean I've turned off the help. It just means I'm only going to get the help when I ask for it now. So I invoke the help with the keyboard shortcut, Control Spacebar. Missing. It's not, is not. Yep, so I don't have any Jeffs. That's sad. I must have corrected that issue, fixed that glitch. Let's go look at these preferences again very quickly, because if you're going to use the automatic, I have a couple pieces of advice. There's nothing wrong with the automatic, but if you're going to use the automatic, I suggest you tweak this delay to match what your workflow is, so you're not being interrupted when you don't want it to be. And also, if you're mad that it never works, pay special attention to this. Here we're saying if there's more than 10 matches, we're never going to bother you with the automatic suggestions. We're only going to show you the suggestions when you manually ask for it. Because again, how helpful is it if we're giving you 300 things to choose from? SQL text expansion. So this one's fun. Let's say you've got a view, and we're just going to go with the nasty view. All objects. All objects is not a table in the database. It's a public synonym pointing to a view that hits like a ton of different things in the database. So I can put my mouse over this and it'll replace star. That if you're writing application code, I don't think you should ever have a star ever. If you're just doing ad hoc queries, maybe a star is not bad. The reason I say don't use stars in your application code is because these columns could change name, placement, order, and it's probably going to break your app. Let's pull a view from my schema. Do I have some views? I bet I do. Imp details view. So I have the little underline under the star that's going to give me the column list. But if I do this on the select, it's going to show me the SQL under the view. And if I click on this, this is what's actually the database is doing when I run my select on this view. Now, if I hate that, I can just undo immediately. And if I want to follow my advice on the star, I can do this. Maybe I don't need all these columns. I'll take off the ones I don't need, and suddenly my code's a little bit better. So that's SQL text expansion. You need to be on Oracle 12c or higher for this to work. The star peaking, that's new as of 4.2 or 17.2. So it's new in the sense of like the last 3 or 4 years. Insight is not just for help with columns and table names. So I can actually help you with the SQL syntax on commands. Here is the case statement, which I completely 100% know, but I've never taken the time to memorize it, so I can just type it out from scratch every single time. So I can just type the word case in an editor, put my mouse cursor over that, or hit Control Spacebar, and here we're pulling out examples from the Oracle docs where the case statement is used. And I could invoke that and get the actual SQL statement out of the Oracle docs in the example. That's what happens if I click here. But if I click on the little book icon, we'll actually pull up the SQL reference page to give you the wire diagram of the case expression itself. And for me, sometimes that's faster than me going to Chrome and Googling it. I covered this already, covered this. Oh, let's start a religious debate. So we have the Oracle style of writing joins, and we have everyone else's style of writing joins. We support both. Select star from employees, departments. And so the Oracle style would be to write a where clause that says join on this data. By the way, this is the way Oracle does it because we built database engines before there ever was an ANSI SQL standard. So you might want to get off your little high horse if you hate this. We were there before ANSI was. But that's okay. We support ANSI too. You can right-click on your SQL, and you can come down here to refactoring, and you can say toggle ANSI Oracle joins, and we'll rewrite that for you so your friends won't make fun of you anymore. And this is the dirty little secret. If you want to know what Oracle does when it sees that code, it rewrites your ANSI join straight back to Oracle style joins again. So even when you're doing it this way, the database engine itself could care less. It's still using the Oracle style joins when you do the plans. Okay, some more questions. Is dark mode on the way? What, is this not dark enough for you? That's sad. If you're in Windows, there is a way to get dark mode. So if you invoke dark mode at the OS level, you can tell SQL Developer to do the same. So here's a SQL Developer in dark mode. If you want to do just SQL Developer in dark mode, there's someone on Twitter that's hacked up a jar file to build a template dark mode. And if you send me an email, I will go find that and send it to you. But it wouldn't technically be supported by us, but it works just fine. Does a SQL Developer connect to the cloud solution as a service? Maybe using a URL. So Oracle Cloud hosted applications like Oracle Financials or Oracle Apps or Oracle eBusiness Suite or Oracle HR hiring and PeopleSoft and all of that stuff. Access to the database is not controlled by us. It's controlled by that person that owns that service. So if they've exposed the database for you, then you can connect to it. Very few of them have. Now we are working with them to make SQL Developer Web available. So in your browser to be able to work directly with your database with SQL. So you couldn't connect to it via SQLnet or a JDBC driver, but you could point and click in your browser to go query your Oracle Cloud host. And in the global utilities group, we've set that up and running. So there are some Oracle Cloud apps that support that today. It's just not there for everyone yet. Is there a way to abort a slow running query? When I click the red X button in the data grid to abort it, it seems it still takes as long. Okay, so when you're running a long running query and you say cancel, we ask the database to cancel it, and it's up to the database to actually cancel it. If that's not working well for you, then I have found that if you use instead a JDBC connection, if you say to use an Oracle Client SQLnet connection, that the cancellation support's a little bit better. So if you have SQL Plus already on your machine and you tell SQL Developer to use that Oracle Home in your connections, when you go to cancel queries, I have found it to be more responsive. I do have a question. I do have a post on my blog called Die SQL Die or something like that, where I talk about how to get help with that. Is it possible to convert ANSI join syntax to Oracle? Yes, absolutely. You can go both directions. So I've got my ANSI SQL here, and I come back here to refactoring, and I say toggle, and it comes back the other way. I refuse to build the one-way conversion. We support it both ways. Has SQL Developer the same tips? I would say no. Diana, I'm not sure I understand your question. These are all SQL Developer tips. Is there a way to get the bigger size GUI? Fonts are always small in the menus in the whole app. Yeah, that's not a quick question to answer, but if you go to Stack Overflow and you search SQL Developer GUI font, my answer is right here. Let me put that in the chat. Sorry, in the Q&A. Is there a way to make, where is that question? Oh, did it go out of the box already?
Jeff, I did take it out. My apologies. If you can put it in chat, then everybody else will be able to access it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say answer live. Oh, not in the QA, in the chat. No, I don't see chat. You know what? Just Google Stack Overflow, how to increase size of GUI font of everything. And there is definitely a way to do it. I promise. There's an easier way to do it if you have a 4K monitor and you don't want the screen scaling to work, which is generally what gets in the way. Man, time is flying. Here's just a quick and dirty little helper. If you mistype your table, SQL Developer does try to tell you that before you run it so you don't look silly during live demos. Here is the model page in the table editor that I showed you before. So this is us doing a little reverse engineer of a small part of your schema. And you can generate DDL from that, back to the very first question of the session. Now, if you're belonging to a group that does not believe in relational databases and everything's a flat file and joins are evil, it might spit out diagrams that look like this that aren't very useful. But there is a way in SQL Developer to say, hey, guess what my foreign keys are? And we can draw the lines for you. Not perfect, but better than nothing. I have a post on how to do that with all the steps. And I will pray and think for you if you are in a system without foreign keys, because it's sad. Getting data out to Excel, I say ooh because once it's in Excel, you can't protect that data anymore. And if you keep it in the database, it's always going to be protected. It's always going to be live. It's always going to be accurate. But sometimes you just need to do that. So a request I get a lot is, hey, how do I get not one Excel sheet? How do I get 50? So if you say export Excel, single file, you get one table, one file. Let's say you want to get a whole bunch of them. Tools, database export, Excel, single file. Give it a good file name. Oh, there's a way to do that. Multiple files that'll give you, you point to a directory and it'll do that, but there is a way to get 15 Excel files in a single table. I think you use the cart for that. I'm gonna skim along because I'm running out of time. Yeah, to the cloud, no, data slow. Tuning. Charlie, is query optimization and tuning something that might be of interest to this group?
It's of interest to a lot of Oracle people, but not, I would say, not quite as much. And I know people are going to be having evil eyes towards me right now, but it's not so much what we've typically focused on in the analytics.
No worries. If your queries are slow and you need help, your developer DBA friends have all the tools they need in SQL Developer to help you with those slow queries. Or if you're ever curious how the database is getting your data, and you look at these plans and they say things like full table scans or Cartesian joins, those are generally bad things.
I assume you have a blog post on that topic.
Absolutely. I have an entire video on tuning. So if
Wow.
it's okay with everyone, with 11 minutes left, I'm going to reward the first person that had the first question and talk about the reverse engineer stuff. And then we'll open up to Q&A, and I can go until top of the hour. So when I think reverse engineer, the first thing that comes to mind is we have this sister product called Oracle SQL Developer Data Modeler, and it's called that because we have very, very creative minds here in Oracle to come up with product names. That's actually what Larry wanted us to call it, so it's very descriptive, not the most exciting name. What I can do with this is I can say on the data modeler, I want to import a database or a data dictionary. So let's pull out of, got too many databases, but that's okay. I'm going to pick a smaller schema just so this runs faster. So you don't have to pull everything out of the schema. The next screen is going to give me a chance to say which objects I want and which types of objects I want. I'm just going to say I want all the tables, all the views, and maybe also the stored procedures. And what a lot of people are left with is supporting an application that's very poorly documented, much less no data model to look at. So when you're writing your queries to answer those business questions, you need to know, well, where's my data stored? How's it stored? Why is it stored that way? And if you don't have documentation or data models, you might need to generate something like this. So we can pull the data out of the database and put it in a format that's easier for you to figure out. So, you know, nice developers will add comments to columns, and we'll show those to you. And if there are relationships between the tables, we'll show those to you. So here's a picture of my schema. And I was a bad developer, so I don't have foreign keys between these things, which I know are related. Here's a view, and I can go look at the properties of this view and see the query and even visualize how that query works. I can select one of these objects and say DDL preview, and it'll show me how this is built in the database. I can leave this open and I can click on other things and immediately see what the DDL is for that. And if I multi-select more, I'll get the DDL for both. I can also say file, data modeler, export DDL file, and we'll spit out a DDL file for all of these objects in the data model. Now you don't have to do the reverse engineer bit if all you wanted was the DDL script to begin with. If all you ever wanted was the DDL script, you could say tools, database export, select your connection, say you want the DDL, you don't want the data, that'll make it run much slower, and tell us what you want to include. And then either choose all objects or a couple. If you choose anything here, it'll be used as a filter, otherwise it'll grab everything. And then what we'll spit out is that DDL script formatted in the way that you asked for up here. So if you want grants, if you want drops, if you want storage, you need to check those as needed. Now, if you do want the data too, then I would suggest getting it in inserts or in loader, which is code for SQL loader. So if they're very large tables, that's the most efficient way to share this between databases. Insert statements is probably easier. It's just going to be slower.
Jeff, what's the compatible thing there where it says version compatible? What's that mean?
This says don't generate DDL that won't work in 11GR2, even though I'm connected to 19C.
Okay.
So when we build new features in 19C and you go to copy that table over to 11G, stuff like nothing comes to mind pops out, but it's smart enough to back that down a little bit.
Cool.
All right, so I'm gonna end on my summary slides, because I do have a couple things to share here. My main thing to share here is thank you. Thanks for letting me come talk to this group. I appreciate that. And then also don't forget to come back to the Analytics and Data Summit org site to keep track of upcoming tech casts. Okay, Charlie, I'm going to spend 6 minutes or shorter to answer the rest of the questions.
Perfect.
Or at least the questions that I want to answer. No, I'll try to do all of them. Is it possible that the DDL config in preferences doesn't affect the DDL command in the worksheet? For instance, storage parameters. Sabina. Yes, it's possible because let me just. We have not surfaced all of the DDL options in the parameters. So what you can do, Sabina, is say set DDL segment attributes off, set DDL storage off, set DDL schema off, and then say DDL employees, and say clear screen, run that as a script. And it should come out exactly the way I asked for it. I did file a bug, Sabina, to add the missing options to the GUI page on the preferences for generating DDL. And so you should get additional flags to set in the preferences in 20.2, which again is we're aiming for this June. So I got dependent objects. I did something wrong with the schema here because that's not supposed to be there. But the storage and all the segment attributes are gone. So I mostly did it right. Can we compare objects in a schema of one database to another database? Yeah, and even in the same schema if you want. So database diff, pick your connections. And then tell us what you want to compare. By default, it tries to compare everything. I'm going to just do a single object so it runs faster. I mean, the more you ask to compare, the longer it's going to take. And also, this is going to compare the structure and organization of objects, not the content of objects. Meaning it's not going to compare the data. If you want to compare data, then you need to use SQL statements to do that. Is there a way to know, debug, why a user has been blocking from time to time an autonomous data warehouse? If you mean sessions being blocked or why a user's session is being blocked, I mean, if my session is being hamstrung by something, what I like to do is open a secondary session and go into this monitor sessions page. And now you need to be somewhat privileged in terms of access to the data dictionary, and you can find their session. And then there's two screens you want to look at. You want to look at the contention page, and you want to look at the weights page. Contention will tell you if they're actively being blocked by another session. You can also come in here and kill people. I mean, not kill people, kill sessions that belong to people. So if you've got a dead process or something that's blocking you, if you have enough privilege, or you can ask the DBA to come in here and kill session, 52 for you, and that would free up your session and you'd be rocking and rolling again. How can I put custom query in session browser to add more columns to it? So $session has a bajillion columns in it and we don't show you everything. If you want your own, open the reports panel. Find the sessions report. There's a lot of them. This looks familiar because it's the exact same one. You're going to copy this. You're going to then go to user-defined sessions. And you're going to select this and then say paste. Here's that sessions report. Now you're going to edit. and you're going to add the columns that you want. And now this report is yours, and you can make it do anything you want. And I have a blog post that shows how to recreate the screen to do exactly what you want and keep things like start trace and kill session. What becomes of a full outer join? I don't know.
I saw that question.
Yeah. It goes to a happy place. Text completion does not work with MySQL databases, correct? And the answer is correct, yes. So a lot of the cool stuff we reserve for Oracle database, because we have a hard enough time keeping up with Oracle database, you can use SQL Developer to connect to third-party databases like DB2, like Sybase, like Teradata, or even our MySQL. But for a better MySQL experience, I suggest you use their MySQL workbench. Like, we don't have a compare schema for MySQL. We've offered to build that stuff for the MySQL team. They've always turned us down, so don't blame us. Can I group sessions based on user or machine in the session browser? No, not by default, but you could build a report that would let you input a module or something and filter on that if you wanted to. There's usually a way to get what you want. You might just have to build it yourself. What's the link of your blog? Well, I would love to answer that question. All the stuff that I'm showing you today, I have written up on thatjeffsmith.com. And it's thatjeffsmith.com because when I went to get my website, jeffsmith.com was taken. And if you ever see me in the real world, it's just Jeff. You don't have to call me that Jeff Smith.
Is the other Jeff Smith the cook?
There's a cook, there's a comic book artist, there's a car dealer, there's a disgraced former congressman. There's a lot of Jeff Smiths out there. There's more than one Jeff Smith at Oracle too. So if you're ever going to email me, don't forget my .d.
You know, Jeff, there's another Charlie Berger out there, but he was the last person to be hanged in the United States.
Is that like an aspirational goal for you?
Yeah, he's from Illinois. Now he's from Illinois. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's hilarious. Are there plans for that's morbid. That's not funny. How dare you trick me into laughing at that? Any plans for expanding import to pickle files? Pickle files. Is it bad that I don't know what a pickle file is, Charlie?
I was thinking pickleball myself, but
we are adding support for Avro, JSON, and XML to SQL Developer Web for imports, and at which point it should trickle down into the desktop to support imports from Avro, JSON, and XML as well. So we are working on that kind of stuff, yes. Can I use SQL Developer Data Modeler to connect to a SQL Server database and convert it to Oracle? Absolutely, yes, you can. Microsoft doesn't even give you a modeling tool. So if you want to use SQL Developer Data Modeler to build a data model for both SQL Server and Oracle and convert it, it absolutely supports that. You just need the JDBC driver for SQL Server to do that. If you want me to help you make your SQL Server better, I'm going to start by saying convert it to Oracle.
Jeff, you said you were going to run out of time at 1.
It's 1:03. Hey, Charlie, I appreciate you kicking me off because I do have things to do. Thanks, everyone, for your time again today. And if you like this, if you liked me, thanks. That makes me feel better. But if you want to have me back on related topics, I'm always happy to do that, Charlie. You just let me know.
We'd love to have you back. Yeah, thank you for this. And thank you, everyone, for attending. Jeff, you've got a huge audience here. There are still, I think you've answered pretty much all the questions, but I think Carrie and I will get you the list of the chat room questions, I think, still. Is that correct, Carrie?
That's correct. I'll send these over to Jeff as soon as the meeting's done and the report pulls up.
And Carrie, I said I would.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Carrie, I said I'd send you the slides immediately after this, but it's probably going to be tomorrow morning.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Guys. And so just sort of wrapping this up, thank you all for attending. The next 2 weeks from now, we're shuffling the schedule around. Stay tuned. We're going to have a surprise guest news speaker that's going to show up for that one. Then June. Is
it Larry? Is it Larry?
It could be. It could be. And then, it's among the possibilities, but so are other people. So June 4th, we're going to have Move from Data Analyst to Analytics Superhero presented by Brendan Doyle. That's a really cool one. He's also from England, so he's got a British accent. June 18th is Building Predictive Analytics Solutions with Sai Kiran. We're going to update the website, but just mark your calendars. Every other Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern time, we're going to have another excellent speaker like Jeff, but it's hard to keep up with what we learned today. I learned a lot. Thank you.